Hello, cricket fans. Welcome back to Power Rankings. This week, we have a Champions Trophy special. If you're new around here, drop us a subscribe. Like the video as well and comment who you think the best player was in the Champions Trophy. If you've not watched Power Rankings before, this is how they work. We look at actual stats, not just mysterious numbers that the ICC come up with, but we look at the runs that have been scored, the wickets that have been scored. We divide the runs by 20, so you get a point per 20 runs. You get a point per 100. A point per wicket, a point per fifer, a point if you win the thing, and then a 1.25 series increase if you play Test cricket, which obviously isn't important because it didn't happen. But Joe, I'm back with Joe Gardner, Essex professional cricketer in Australia. Enjoy the Champions Trophy, Joe.
Yeah, do you know, I didn't watch every single game, but I probably watched more of it being out here in Australia than I would have done had I been back home. So, I mean, that was quite nice and had a bit of time to watch highlights and catch clips and stuff. So I've probably watched more of it than, I definitely would have done had I been at home.
Well, that's a bonus, I think. Here's a nice little kind of Aussie accent coming through there as well. It's rubbing off on you. Do you want to start us off with number 20? Who is the 20th best player in the 2025 Champions Trophy?
The 20th best player in the 2025 Champions Trophy is left-arm seamer Ben Dwarshuis, who kind of found himself on the back of a call-up after all of Australia's bowling stock injuries, shall we say. And he probably wouldn't have been the left-arm seamer that people would have thought would have taken as many wickets as he did in the Champions Trophy. He took 7 wickets. People might have had their eyes on Spencer Johnson instead, with kind of his record and how he's done in international cricket in the past. But yeah, Ben Dwarshuis, he sits at the foot of the power rankings in 20th for Champions Trophy with 7 points.
Good for him. I wonder kind of what future he might have as an international cricketer with those other guys coming back, but you never know. Daryl Mitchell in at number 19. New Zealand once was an all-rounder. I think stands his own armour when he needs to. 139 runs at an average of 34. 49 in the semi-final. Another good showing by New Zealand. He himself made 63 in a pretty turgid final in Dubai. He always seems to be there, as does New Zealand in these major tournaments, and they just can't get over the line again. But anyway, 19th for Daryl Mitchell.
Poor old Kiwis. In 18th, now this guy, I was really impressed when I tuned into any of Afghanistan's games in Azmatullah Amaze. Obviously he took a fifer in that game that they won against England, which was super impressive. And he had a bit of an impact with the bat as well, got half century against Australia. So he comes in at number 18 and definitely one to keep an eye on. And, you know, with Afghanistan sort of going under the radar a bit in these sorts of tournaments, there's always a couple of players from them that you like to keep an eye on. Azmatullah Amaze comes in at number 18.
I was a bit disappointed with Afghanistan. I thought they would have made a semi-final. I think if they'd have been drawn on India's side of the comp, I think they would have got it, you know, because they would have had that one game in Dubai. But yeah, I thought they'd have gone one step further than where they were. But oh well, not to be. 17th, another Kiwi, Will Young. I think he was a bit of a late replacement into a competition as well. He wasn't really kind of set to be there, but scored 107 in the opening game against Bangladesh. He opened the batting, I think, in the absence of Ravindra, didn't he? Because he was trying to eat cricket balls in that kind of Pakistan ODI series in the build-up to the Champions Trophy. But yeah, 165 at 33 gave him 8 points and locks him in 17th in the league.
And again, with 8 points coming in at 16th, we have the first Indian in the Champions Trophy power rankings in Kuldeep Yadav, the left-arm wrist spinner. We have obviously seen how effective his sort of difference in action can be and how he sort of doomed batters and whatnot, although not the complete standout from an Indian spin perspective in this tournament, but he still took 7 wickets, an average of 31, and made his impact with a Wiley economy rate and whatnot as well. So Kuldeep Yadav comes in at 16.
I had a few spinners. They had a few spinners to choose from, didn't they? Yadav was good. 15th, KL Rahul, the man who was, in his words, shitting himself in the final when India needed a runner ball, less than a runner ball for 50 overs. He scored 41 not out against Bangladesh, 42 against Australia in the semi-final, 42 against Australia, 34 of 33 against New Zealand in the final. He just didn't get out at all. No one was good enough to get KL Rahul out in the comp. So finishes with 8 points and a whole lot of red ink. And a quality average for the champion. Well, he didn't get an average, does he? Because you have to be out to get an average in the Champions Trophy. Good for KL Rahul.
Coming in number 14, we've got Rassie van der Dussen. Again, he's one of my like players that I you just like someone, and you just if they're playing, you're like, yeah, I really want to watch him bat and whatnot. I've always taken a liking to Rassie van der Dussen. He comes in number 14, scored 3 50s in the 3 innings that he played, because I think he missed the first game with an injury and whatnot, and sort of shepherded the chase when they absolutely smashed England with a 72 not out and a very cruisy run chase for the Saffers. He comes in at 14 on 9 points.
13th, the man that does it all, Glenn Phillips. Catches, wickets, runs, 6s, 4s, ridiculous boundary stops. Do you know there's no inclusion for any fielding stats in our power rankings, and maybe there should be, because if there was, Glenn Phillips, I dare say, would be a bit further up the pecking order. But he's got 9 points in our ranking with a couple of 50s, ridiculous kind of back end hitting, wasn't it? 61 off 39, 49 off 27, wickets here, there, and everywhere, and one of those players that just buys wickets for the team in the field. Again, another tournament where New Zealand couldn't get over the line, but yeah, Glenn Phillips, 13th. What else can you say about him?
A few highlights reels of his catches. That's been plastered all over social media, that's for sure. Coming in just above Glenn Phillips in 12th is his Kiwi captain in Mitchell Santner, who had a really consistent tournament. Took 9 wickets at an average just under 27. Took 3 for 43 in the semi-final that they had against South Africa, and 2 for 46 in the final against India. So, yeah, Mr. Reliable, sort of led from the front in Mitchell Santner for the Kiwis. He comes in at 12th with 9 points.
He feels very New Zealand international cricketer, Mitch Santner, doesn't he? Like, quite unassuming, but just does incredibly well. And it was one of those I was actually quite surprised to see him captain the side, to be completely honest with you. But glad he did, and he did well. Number 11, another Kiwi, Kane Williamson. I actually saw this morning Tim Salvey was talking about the fact that doesn't know whether Kane Williamson's going to play for that much longer. You never really know what he's thinking about, and this, that, and the other. But he picked up 10 points in our rankings. 81 versus India in the group, 102 versus South Africa. Joint most catches in the competition as well. So clearly, if fielding was important to us, he would have a few more points, but it isn't. He's a bit of a fine wine, isn't he? That Fab Four, that Root, Kohli, Williamson, maybe less so Babar nowadays, to be fair, but those 3 in particular just seem to be getting a bit better. Smith as well, obviously. I forgot about Steve Smith.
Yeah, and he's obviously hung his boots up from ODI international cricket as well after this tournament. But yeah, it was really nice actually to see the kind of impact that those guys are still having in ODI cricket, which is obviously the less sexy version of cricket that's played as a format around the world, you'd probably say, at the moment.
Do you think you be a bigger cricket fan to enjoy one-day international cricket in 2025 than what you would have to be to enjoy Test cricket?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Yeah,
I reckon so.
and that's mad, isn't it, to say how much that's changed?
Yeah, and there's actually a lot of people that are likening ODI cricket more to Test cricket than T20 cricket, and the narrative seems to have kind of flipped a little bit on that. But yeah. Anyway, good for those guys. We've got we're entering the top 10, and in that,
love to see it.
We've got our 4th Kiwi in a row in Tom Latham.
I had a good comp, Joe.
They did, but yeah, as we've already alluded to, just fell short at the final hurdle. Bless them. Bless the Kiwis. He scored 205 runs at an average just over 50, including 118 not out in the first game of the tournament against Bangladesh, in which he won Player of the Match. So good sort of start and stamping his mark down on the tournament then. He comes in at 11 points in 10th.
Another 11-pointer. Ibrahim Zadran, one of a few men that broke England hearts throughout the Champions Trophy, scored 177 against England as a Player of the Match performance in the group stage, averaged 72 across 3 games. It feels like that top order, if it's not Gurbaz, then Zadran gets you. And this time it was Zadran's time to shine, wasn't it? Gurbaz had a pretty tough time of it. But again, they feel like Afghanistan, despite the political kind of views on whether women should or shouldn't play cricket or not, which is completely wrong. They feel like they've really got the blueprint of building something really special, and Zadran's going to be a huge part of it with Gurbaz, with Rashid Khan, with the Amarzai, with Mujibur Rahman. They've got so much talent in that team.
Yeah, they have. They've got a lot of bases covered. And again, they're a really exciting team to watch and follow. And I feel like you always want them to sort of do well, knowing that they've got knowing that they're one of the lesser nations in these sorts of competitions. But they're taking down bigger teams tournament by tournament. And yeah, they got us again, didn't they? That's for sure. Number 8, we've got Mohammad Shami, who, again, in the first game, made his mark on the tournament by taking 5 for 53 against Bangladesh. Finished the tournament with 9 wickets, just behind Matt Henry, and sort of led the power play and leading attack for India from a seam perspective. Also took 3 for 48 in the semi-final against Australia. He comes in at 11 points as well, does Mohammad Shami.
Yeah. India's best spinner, Varun Chakravarti, in at 7, 11 points again, is a bit of a batter's tournament when you really look into these numbers as to who's done well, particularly with the way that we kind of score these points for these players. But anyway, 9 wickets of 15 for Varun Chakravarti. Didn't play in the first 2 games, which is wild, isn't it, when you think about that, how that pitch performed in Dubai, and picked up 9 wickets in the back end of the tournament. 5 for 42 against New Zealand. Mystery spin, no one could pick him. Just a quality cricketer, and a really interesting story, I think, behind how he got to where he is, which makes it just that little bit, it just makes you feel a bit fuzzier about him, doesn't it? The fact that he's had like a little fun stories in his upbringing and how he's got there. But yeah, in at 7, Varun Chakravarti, and I don't know what that is going on in the background of where Joe is.
Yes, Varun Chakravarti in at 7, and as you sort of alluded to, the lesser impact from in the scoring of the rankings for the bowlers in this tournament is highlighted by the fact that the leading wicket taker, Matt Henry, comes in at 6th. He didn't even make the top 5, bless him, and he had a wicked tournament. 10 wickets at 16.7, including 5 for 42 against India in the group stage, even though they did lose that game. And he got injured in the semi-final, didn't he? He hurt his shoulder, so that he didn't play in the final a couple of days ago, which you feel like, had he have played, might things have been a little bit different, perhaps, knowing the impact that he had as the leading wicket taker for New Zealand and the tournament. Yeah, but he comes in at 6th with 11 points as well.
Yeah, it's kind of taken on the mantle from Bolton Southey really well, isn't he, as a leader of that New Zealand attack? Another one of those Kiwis that you just is a bit unassuming. Comes across like a really nice bloke, and you don't really think about him, and then all of a sudden he's the leading wicket taker in the Champions Trophy. Right, batting fans, this is the place for you. The top 5, all batters, and I think as a general rule of thumb for the games played in Pakistan, it was a fairly productive place for batters and run makers in the competition. And number 5, we've got Ben Duckett, 227 runs for the competition, the best of 165 against Australia in the opening game, an average of 75.66 in 3 games. There was, I think, at the end of the group stage, but despite the fact that England had been dumped out of the comp, he was the leading run scorer in the competition. And I know people will be like, oh, it's all these England moral victories that we scored 300 and still lost and all this other shit. But it was a really good competition for Ben Duckett. I think he's got 1,000 ODI runs in 21 innings now. And again, I think a lot of people, particularly around Northampton, realised how good this lad was. And it's really nice to see kind of him really kind of take these opportunities by the horns, I guess, really kind of cement his place in an England shirt.
Yeah, he's been super dominant, hasn't he, at the top of the order for England, sort of in the past 12 months in particular. And as you say, sort of as someone that's watched him quite a bit from when I was younger at Northants, sort of dominating in 2015, 2016, and you think, gosh, how much his career's sort of progressed. And it's really good to see him doing so well in an England shirt and contributing at the top of the order. And his England compatriot, Joe Root, comes in at number 4, again with 12 points, 2 runs less than Duckett, 225, an average of 75, with 100 against Afghanistan, 120 he scored, and 150. He was, like as we sort of alluded to, in that top 4 that we talk about in batting stats and whatnot. He was excellent, wasn't he? You just see his class when he bats; it just shines through. again, has been very dominant for England over the last 12 to 18 months. And yeah, he finds himself coming in number 4 with 12 points.
Yeah, it feels like those middle overs of ODI cricket for these guys and girls that are the very, very best. It's just too easy of a format. You've got players out on the boundary, knock the ball around, pick up a boundary every now and again, and all of a sudden you've got 100 off 80 balls. Lovely. Thanks very much. Virat Kohli, the man, the run chase kind of machine, really, just turns up in a run chase. India need 250 to win. Who's going to score the runs? It's going to be Virat Kohli. 218 at an average of 54, 2 player of the match performances, 100 not out against Pakistan in obviously the biggest sporting event of the year. 84 against Australia in the semi-final, joint most catches. Final wasn't really his day, was it? Which I was really surprised about, to be honest with you, because it did really feel like that blueprint for Virat Kohli was perfect to go and score kind of a match-winning 87, and then you saw Virat kissing the necklace and saluting the crowd in Dubai. But it didn't happen. But it was a fantastic tournament for Virat, and you don't like him that much. I do. And sometimes it's just quite nice to see the greats do well again.
Yeah, and it definitely feels like it was a tournament for that, which, yeah, is what you want, to see kind of those players dominating and whatnot. Now, in second place, so on 13 points, we've got Shreyas Iyer, and what a tournament he had. He was so consistent. So he scored a couple of 50s in the group stages going against Pakistan and New Zealand, and then in the semi-final scored 45 against Australia and scored 48 in the final. Some, really sort of impactful performances, not necessarily the massive scores and the massive hundreds that we saw from some of the players that bat in the top 4, but super consistent for Shreyas Iyer, and yeah, contributed no end to India's success ultimately in the tournament.
Well, after 15 minutes, we can confirm that our top of the power rankings player is the same player that was the player of the tournament as well. So, I mean, if you've wasted your time to get this far through, fair play to you, but thank you so much for listening to us. Ravindra is the top of the power rankings for the Champions Trophy. 200s, including 108 against South Africa in a semi-final, 112 in the first game against Bangladesh on his recovery from that pretty freaking kind of horror injury, wasn't it, that he picked up against Pakistan in the warm-up to the Champions Trophy. Yeah, I mean, what a player this lad's going to be. We've spoken about the current Fab Four. I don't know what the branding for the next batch of 4 players to kind of dominate world cricket are going to be, but I dare say Ravindra is going to be a huge part of that, with Kusal Mendes, possibly Shreyas Iyer, Shubman Gill. There's so many players that could take that mantle forward, and I think Ravindra is going to be one of them.
Yeah, 100% agree. Also took a wicket every time he had a bowl in the tournament as well. So, it's not just the batting from his front that you look out for, because he likes to contribute with the ball one in the field as well. So yeah, rightly so, top of the pile, I'd say.
Handy polls. Is he going to be the guy to lift the trophy for New Zealand though? That is going to be the guy. I mean, I know they won the World Championship globe on a stick thing, whatever that thing's technically called, but yeah, is he going to lift them a white ball trophy? Could do, I don't know. But we have got a bonus for you this week, Joe. We've done our highly thought out and official team of the competition, which is exciting. Everybody else has done one. We're a bit late, but we're going to do it anyway. Do you want to open the batting for us?
Yeah, we may as well start where we just finished off, I think, Dan. So, taking strike, number 1, Ravindra. Thank you very much. The left-hander's going to just whack some boundaries early on in the power play, and
with him, and I think probably captain, we'd have to give him captaincy, wouldn't we? But we're going to have to go for Rohit Sharma. There was a choice here between Duckett, Zadran and Sharma. Player of the match in the final, obviously lifted the trophy, makes a huge difference to, I think, kind of people's thoughts about who makes that team of the tournament. But yeah, Rohit's up there as well.
Coming in at number 3, we've got your man, Kohli. Obviously, with India winning the tournament, he kind of took precedence over the other sort of candidates for that position, which was Rassie van der Dussen and Kane Williamson. Notable mentions for them, but yeah, you probably can't leave Virat out when India go unbeaten in a tournament like that, and he has an impact.
Engine room, Shreyas Iyer in at number 4. You spoke about the consistency. Cannot have him in this tournament in the middle order, so he's in there at number 4.
Number 5, we've got the guy that I mentioned that I quite enjoyed his sort of tournament in Asmatullah Omarzi, sort of with the impact with both bat and ball. Nice to have a genuine all-rounder in at number 5.
Glenn Phillips, 6. Bowling, batting, fielding. does it all. Maybe a bit high at 6. I don't know. Maybe he could be 7. But what a player. You can't not have him in there. Just unbelievable cricketer.
He's one of those floaters, isn't he? You'd say he could go in at 4 if you're
What a lovely way to describe Glenn Phillips.
Versatile. So versatile.
Yes.
In at number 7 and taking the gloves, we've got KL Rahul. Obviously, we mentioned how he just doesn't get out in run chases and just, wanted to be the man that saw India across the line in the games that they were successful. So we've got KL Rahul with the gloves at number 7.
Did what he had to do. Mitch Santner at 8. Could have been captain. I think Rohit's probably the better pick there, to be honest with you. Unless you want to argue otherwise, it's fine. But 9 wickets at an average of 26. Good tournament for Mitch Santner. Really, really impressed with him with a white ball in his hand.
Yeah, another Kiwi coming in at 9 in Matt Henry, obviously leading wicket taker, as we mentioned. We'll have him with the new ball, and you'll allude to his new ball partner at number 10.
Mo Shami, just ages like a fine wine, doesn't he? Just gets better every time he takes to the cricket field. He looked like he was struggling with injuries for a while during that competition, or he was at least coming back from them. I'm not really sure what was going on. But 9 wickets, including a 5 for against Bangladesh, which, based on that game, I reckon I'd fancy my chances taking a couple of wickets against them. 3 for 48 against Australia in the semi-final as well. But he just looked so good. On a pitch that wasn't suited for seam bowling, he looked fantastic.
And bringing up the tail in number 11, we've got Varun Chakravarti, and obviously you mentioned that he didn't even play the first 2 games, and he took 9 wickets, and people couldn't pick him. Only averaged 15. Player of the match performance in the group stage against New Zealand with a 5 for. He was impressive at the ripe old age of 33. Varun Chakravarti rounds out our team of the tournament.
Quality team, quality player. Look, thank you so much for watching or listening all the way through. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know, as I said at the beginning, who you think your team is of the tournament, your player of the tournament, anything like that. Joe, thanks for hanging out for 20 minutes. Has been good fun again. And I guess we'll go back to a bit of normality next month, unless we get taken over by the PSL or the IPL, whatever might be going on. But yeah, we'll see.